Lolly's Creamery breakfast goals.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch ice cream with Cinnamon Toast Crunch bark, brown sugar cinnamon Pop-Tarts, and a buttery cinnamon swirl.
I mean, anything involving Cinnamon Toast Crunch should be your breakfast goal. Is it the best cereal in the game? Not at all, but it is an all-time great. And there's already been a few reviews of this flavor and some not so good, especially calling it icy, but you know I never judge until I confirm myself. I can and can't confirm those textural issues. I don't like calling it icy. I think calling it grainy is a much better way to describe it. Nonetheless, this just doesn't freeze well, and we certainly have some consistency issues here. Besides biting and chewing the ice cream, the flavor of the Cinnamon Toast Crunch base is good. It's like a weaker flavor bowl of the actual cereal. Tiny hint of cinnamon, but a fair amount of what I'm going to call that leftover cereal sweetness. I don't mind it though. It's mild enough to have a Cinnamon Toast Crunch flavor, but it also lets the mix-ins talk their game. Dissecting these mix-ins, they range from great to not so good. The Cinnamon Toast Crunch bark is just Cinnamon Toast Crunch cereal coated in white chocolate, and they don't do anything for me at all. I certainly don't notice their flavor, and they're the least abundant mix-in. They blend into the base, so you don't even notice them until you come across their hard but crispy texture. Secondly, the brown sugar cinnamon Pop-Tarts just don't freeze well, in my opinion. If you're team frozen Pop-Tart, you might enjoy them. But if you're like me and your team toast my Pop-Tart, I don't think you're gonna like their overly hard and crunchy texture. And for that reason, their flavor just doesn't pop like it should. However, it does bring a much sweeter brown sugar flavor to the table. Thankfully, I saved the best mix-in for last, the buttery cinnamon swirl. And that describes it perfectly. Tons of cinnamon spice and just as much butter. It's extremely flavorful and has some serious bite to it. It's kind of hardened though, so I would call it more of a semi-frozen cookie dough-like texture rather than a swirl. It kind of crumbles apart, slightly crunchy, but very gritty. Don't get me wrong, the flavor execution here, it's hard to argue against. You have the cinnamon spice, buttery swirl mixed with the brown sugar sweetness in the Pop-Tarts, mixed with a milky sweetness in the base. But the overly grainy texture of the ice cream is a bit off-putting, and it's holding this one back. 6.5 out of 10.